Reese has taken UTSA in Toledo. I was very upset he took UTSA. But let's start with Schaefer. Give me Boise State.
Yeah, you mean the best Group of 5 team in the country? The Boise boys?
It's possible, but no, they're not ranked like they are.
Yeah, well, we might be talking something different at the end of the year. Couple of outlines on Boise State if you're just a casual fan who doesn't pay attention to a ton of Group of 5. This is a team who started off, I believe, 2-2 last year and really looked terrible. Hank Bachmeier and the offensive coordinator both left after that UTEP loss, which was a terrible loss. So
they lost at UTEP.
It was bad, and I just remember it vividly because somebody might have had money on Boise that game.
Somebody might have taken Boise. We should have been on UTEP knowing that fellow.
But after that game, Taylor Green steps in. Just a ginormous dude, 6'6", 215. He finished 8-2 as a starter, and really could have won every single one of those football games. I think he needs to come into this season with a better improved arm because he can actually run the rock pretty well. George Alani and Aston Jenny are the best running back duo probably in the Group of 5, and Green returns all of his receivers. So they have plenty of weapons on offense for this G5 team. They have at Washington to start the year. Watch out for that one. We all know what people think of Washington, some opinions higher than others. And then they have UCF the week after. Their defense actually ranked 6th total in total defense last year in the entire country. And Andy Avalos he's a defensive-minded coach. They lost a lot of guys on that team on the defensive side of the ball, but I think he'll just fill in those spots just fine. I don't think the Mountain West is going to scare him with new guys on defense.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a team in the Mountain West that's really going to scare them. Of course, they're going to get in battles. But a team I did not choose to break down that I really wanted to is Air Force. I think Air Force is the one team in the Mountain West that could really give them a scare and challenge to win that conference. Parks, let's talk Tulane, who happens to be ranked unlike Boise State.
Yeah, it's the only G5 team on the AP ranking, and at 24, just in front of Iowa. Team that went 12-2 last year with a Cotton Bowl win against USC with a playing Caleb Williams. So it wasn't the prettiest thing on the defensive side of the ball, which I'll get into. Michael Pratt returns. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year with 27 touchdowns and only 5 picks. Yeah, he's a stud. He gives you kind of a dual look that people don't realize, too. He can run it a little bit, too. A couple of years ago, they played at Oklahoma. He had a hell of a game. So it's a kid that has a lot of experience, especially against good teams now with the bowl game under his belt. They did, however, lose Taj Spears, but still have a talented running back room with a Liberty transfer. I think it's Shedrow Lewis. I think it's Shedrow. I could be wrong on that, but he needs a little bit more experience. But coming from a Liberty team, which is another good Group of 5 team usually, and then wide receiver 1 will be Jaquan Jackson, who was second team All-American last year, and he'll be the main target for Pratt. They did add a Baylor transfer on the offensive line, which always helped, especially with an inexperienced running back room. A little bit bigger of a hole is never a problem. But their fault is definitely going to be on the defensive side of the ball. They lost their top 5 tacklers, and they're going to need some young guys to step up, or they're going to find themselves in a lot of Cotton Bowl-like games. But it's a good team. They're in the top 25 for a reason. They've got a good amount of offensive production coming back, and I see maybe a 9-3 or 10-2 team with some slip-ups. So they got a chance.
You bet. And then along with that team, there's a team in the Group of 5 that I thought maybe should be ranked, could end up being the only Group of 5 ranked at the end of the year, the UTSA Roadrunners. Reese, you have them. Meep.
Yeah, so Jeff Traylor, 3 seasons at that school, 30-10, so guy knows how to win there. Back-to-back Conference USA titles, now over to the American. They got a chance to win it right away. They got Frank Harris coming back for his 5th year. Had to look it up for sure.
Come on,
this
Frank.
guy's
8th year.
This is guy's 7th. This is his 7th year in college. He's got his fucking doctorate already. Guy loves college. I did too. Good for him. Threw for 4,000 yards last year, 32 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Also ran for 600 yards with 9 touchdowns. Returns 10 starters on offense. One of his top receivers is back, Zachary Franklin, who had 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns.
Sorry, Reese. We're going to have to do it to you again, brother.
What?
He's at Ole Miss now.
What? I looked at Bro, that's the one fucking guy I Googled. I swear to God. I literally Googled. I went Zachary Franklin return and I like question mark or whatever, and it like 4 articles about it, bro. I swear to God. Whatever.
The question mark return.
I'm gonna need you to clear any name you're not sure about with us now.
Just
All right,
the group
whatever.
chat. Well,
Athlon. This one
Whatever,
that
just
goes
cut that,
directly on
not-
yeah.
Athlon.
Well, that's what happens when Reese, I can't blame you. Athlon comes out with a thing in April, so you really just got to double check
Yeah.
everything.
You're gonna have to get one of
That,
these.
well, fuck it, I swear to God, I did.
Bro said return.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the middle of their schedule too, they got to go to FAU, then they got East Carolina, North Texas, and they go to North Texas. They have a little rough stretch in there, but this very well could come down to the last game of the season where they go to Tulane to decide the conference as well.
Yep.
So.
Hell of a game to end the year.
Totally agree. There'll be a ton of fun to watch. Trailer is going to be a name that's going to be gone after this year. I think it's time for him to leave there. He's highly sought after.
Recruit.
Let's stay in the American though. Let's go 3 straight American teams. I'll take the SMU Mustangs in Dallas. And the Pony Express, are they back? Express, is it back?
Hopefully,
Lost
the
of
success
Mordecai.
is back. They don't want to go on penalty again.
It's NIL, right? Anything possible. Is it back? We're fixing to find out the amount of transfers they brought in. They're going to start getting looked into again. I'm just messing. But the losses of Mordecai and Rasheed Rice will be definitely felt. Those guys are explosive. This team put up a ridiculous amount of points last year. They beat Houston, I think 69-55 at 72-65. It was ridiculous how scoring. But Preston Stone will step in a quarterback, and he's very highly thought of. He gets the number 2 through 4 leading receivers back on that team, including RJ Maryland, their tight end, who is a big body, big playmaker. That's really going to help this team be explosive. The portal brought in a ton of transfers from the Power 5 level, from the Group of 5 level, and it rebooted the offensive line and the linebacking core. They lost their 2 main linebackers to graduation, and then the offensive line was a little bit depleted for other reasons, but they have brought in a ton of guys to help out on that end. And if they're going to get to the American title game, they're going to need those 2 units to be much better. Running backs, Tyler Levine and Miami transfer Jalen Knighton are not to be overlooked. This isn't a team that runs the ball a ton or doesn't get a lot of love for that run game, but these guys are one of the more talented duos in the Group of 5. I think they can get over that hump if Levine hits his next stride and really progresses this season. The defense has never been stout. You never look at SMU and go, gee, I mean, those guys can play defense. No, that's never been the story. Honestly, Brett Lashley would rather outscore you by scoring 65 than only playing 21-21 or 21-20 football. They're going to have to get better, as they always are, but they did bring in a lot of stuff on the back end to really help that. The defensive front's going to be solid, and the DB core is going to be much improved. Does that mean much if it's saying much improved from last year? I don't know. But what I'm telling you is this team can win the American, and they'll be a ton of fun to watch. They were a ton of fun to watch last year. And everybody wants SMU to be back. They're in the middle of, does the ACC want them? Well, do they want into the Big 12? Well, are they going to go to the Pac-12? Well, they're not going to the Pac-12. But this is a program in their height when they're in the Southwest Conference that was getting national news for good and bad reasons, but a ton of good. And so they really want this program to be back, and I think they're in the right track. They didn't miss a beat after Sonny Dykes left. So
what are your thoughts on the the Dallas rebrand they've done the last couple of years, throwing Dallas on their jerseys? I like it.
I kind of like it because it's kind of a FU to TCU as well.
Yeah.
They're in Fort Worth, but they claim the DFW area. Those are fun games, but sometimes they go a little overboard with it. I really like the SMU, the Southern Methodist thing, but Dallas, the helmet looks fine with just the D with the racetrack look. Yeah. The Dallas I'm indifferent about. I mean, I wouldn't be hurt if it stayed there. I wouldn't be hurt if it left, but it's simple. They're never too crazy with their stuff. They always have kind of that simple look.
Them and TCU have been an underrated rivalry kind of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's always kind of
in danger of losing it.
Yeah.
In danger of losing it. That game was really good last year, by the way. It wasn't just a pushover game. Let's go back to Schaefer. Now let's go to the Sun Belt, though.
Yep.
Let's talk South Alabama. This is not a team that you're like, oh, I bet you they're at the top of the Sun Belt this year. Well, they are. They're picked to win the darn thing. What do you think about the Jaguars? This team used to be in the dumps for a really long time.
Yeah.
I remember when they were first introduced to the NCAA football games.
Yep.
And
terrible.
Their branding was just god awful.
Terrible. I think I personally picked the 2 best teams in the Group of 5. And we're going to talk about the best team in the Sun Belt. Parks might have something to argue about that in a second, but they returned Kane Womack. He's coaching for his 3rd year. When you look at Group of 5 teams, when you can get a coach like him to come back, including Jeff Traylor's another example. When you can get a guy that continues to have success and turns down big jobs, every year you get them back is just a huge plus every single time. So him coming back for his third year is a big deal. This was a team that went 10-2 last year and was almost a 1-point loss to UCLA and a 4-point loss to Troy from going 12-0. And it basically returns the exact same team. Carter Bradley comes back. He's their stud quarterback, threw for over 3,300 yards last year. He gets his top 2 receivers back. I believe they have like 8 returning starters on offense, including running back LaDamian Webb. He's arguably the best back in that conference. I think 18 guys that returned this season ranked in the 1st through 4th all Sun Belt team last year. So basically every damn starter was on an all conference list, which is just incredible. The top 6 tacklers return for their defense, and looking at this schedule, at Tulane week 1. Nobody talks about that enough. Just a gem of a G5 game you're going to get right away. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to Stillwater, a team I think they can beat if they play like they did in LA last year.
Yep. I think that's a team in Stillwater that's used to tough games coming in and not being ready to go in Boone Pickens for these G5 teams. Let's stay in the Sun Belt. Parks, you have Troy, your Sun Belt champions, by the way, from last year. Unexpected, but they did do it. Are they challenging South Alabama? What are you seeing in this team?
Yeah, you got to put an asterisk next to that Sun Belt champion because James Madison couldn't have a say in it. But obviously, we'll touch on James Madison. But looking at Troy, they're coming off a 12-2 year. I mean, I think you want to talk about an under-the-radar team that nobody's going to talk about because they're in the Sun Belt. It's going to be Troy. This is an impressive team, man. They put together some good years. They started last year 1-2, and that second loss came in week 3 to App State on that Hail Mary with that gorgeous sorority video of those girls watching it while it happens. Hilarious. Look it up. And then they rattled off 11 in a row, including a bowl game win against UTSA in the Cure Bowl. So this is a good team. Gunnar Watson returns along with 11 other starters. Watson threw for 2,800 yards last year with 14 TDs. However, he did have 12 interceptions as well, so he's got to split that up a little bit more. But really, the main attack that they bring back is Kamani Vidal in the backfield. Ran for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. He really opens up the pass game for Gunnar Watson, but he's got to stop throwing it to the other team. It's a team with a favorable schedule outside of week 2 that they're probably going to be favored in almost every one of their games outside of playing at Kansas State week 2. Upset alert, by the way. Mark that down. If you didn't have it marked down, that's a good team rolling into K-State week 2 and some uncertainties with that Wildcat team. So I'm high on the Trojans. They do have a similar defensive story to Tulane, which I just mentioned. They do lose 5 of their 8 best tacklers, so they do need some young guys to step up, but I expect another good year from Troy.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing to outline is that we are outlining games where these teams are going to go challenge themselves against the Power 5 teams or even other group of 5s, and that's a big deal for us. We want to outline all the teams in the country and all the great games. Reese, I don't want to skip you, but I'm going to stay in the Sun Belt real quick, and then we can go over
ahead,
to yours. I have the James Madison Dukes, and I wanted to outline them because they are in their second year of FBS football play, but still uneligible for some unknown reason. I don't understand why the NCAA does this. You see it every year in the NCAA tournament. They cannot play any postseason play. So no Sun Belt title, no bowl game. You saw it last year. They won the Sun Belt East, did not get into the Sun Belt title game. Would they have beaten Troy? I don't know. I think you were looking at a really, really good Troy team last year. Power 5 transfers at quarterback, though. You get Jordan McLeod out of Arizona and Brett Griffiths out of Wake Forest. These are 2 guys that they are very high, very, very high on at James Madison. And the good thing is they play a ball control offense. They're going to slow it down. They're going to use their great offensive line. Here's the thing with the great offensive line. If you can't run the football well because your running backs haven't taken that next step or haven't really grown into the role, it's going to hurt a little bit. So they're definitely going to need that to improve. But they're going to have guys under center who can throw the football and really stretch a defense and make things happen. That I'm not sure who's going to get that start yet, but I am very interested. I think I lean McLeod here, but I could see it going both ways. The pass attack is going to be held together with firepower on the outside. You get Reggie Brown, Omarion Dawson, you get Elijah Stewart, and Phoenix Sproles. These kids are talented, dude. These are really good, talented receivers in the G5 level, and they could play at a Power 5 level as well. You get a really good linebacking core and defensive line. This is usually where they rely on. They play the slower tempo offense, control the clock, control the game, and then really lean on that defense. The secondary should be good again, but it's going to need to get better. They're going to see better passing attacks than they did a season ago. They did get lit up by Georgia Southern last year for over 500 yards in a game. They're going to get more teams like that this year on their schedule that can throw the football. So that team, they've got to improve. But it's hard not to outline a team who had that good of a year in year one at the Group of Five level and didn't get any notoriety for it or any notice for it outside of the fact that they didn't get a play for a conference title game. Now, let's go to the MAC with Reese's team, Toledo. What do you think about Toledo? Are they going to win the MAC? They're currently favored, if I'm not mistaken, to win that conference.
They are, yeah. They're picked to win. They're projected 6-2 in the conference. I can't believe nobody else took the MAC. I know they're kind of the just not the most exciting conference in the world.
We've become kind of Sunbelt homers, dude.
Yeah, the MAC is light years behind Division I football. I feel
it's like an AM, but I feel like it's still like it's our weekday. It's our weekday thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk MAC. Don't get it wrong, Reese. Don't get it twisted.
All right. But yeah, Jason Cannell brought that team to 6 bowl games in the last 8 years. Guy knows how to win. Quarterback DeQuan Finn's back, 2,200 yards last year, 23 scores, and then he also ran for 631 yards with 9 scores as well. Offense averaged 31 points, which is pretty solid for the MAC. They also had the top defense in that conference as well last year. They lost 5 guys, so they bring back 6. So they're going to have guys step up. But if they can find a way to keep scoring points in that conference, they open up the year at Illinois, which is going to be a tough game. But when it comes to their actual schedule, they have most of their games at home that they're going to want. They got NIU, they have Eastern Michigan, both at home. They go on the road to Miami of Ohio. They end the year with 2 games on the road, but they're both very winnable games. Like you mentioned before, they're projected to win it. They're favored to win this conference. If they can do what they did last year and score enough points, the only thing's going to stop them is themselves. So.
Yep. The Rockets, in which I took last year to win the MAC, gave me 1 point. So book it.
Nice.
Every point. EPM. Every point matters.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been one at a time, Parks. I mean, you got to give me one. Right.
I can give you one, but I'm still stuck on Schaefer saying the MAC is light years behind Division I football. You better be careful with that tone. Iowa State rolls into Athens week 3, and that ain't no joke.
Yeah, the team that won their division, the team that won their division last year, one of the worst offenses in the country, put up 43 on them. I'm all right. I'll be all right.
Be careful.
That's our G5 stuff. We'll talk more G5 throughout the entire year. No worries on that. We're not going to let that slip at all. But